Okay. All right. Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Critical Areas Project Committee. In attendance today, Kate, if you could help me out, just making sure I note all the commissioners in attendance today, that would be really helpful.
Yep, we'll do a quick roll call.
Okay.
I'll mark the names that I have, and then if anyone's joined, if you could speak up. So I have Theo Williams for Julia Glantz with DHCD. I have Rosa Hantz. I have Mike McCarthy. I have Hitesh Patel, Tammy Robertson, and Brian Roche. And then also joining us, we have Mayor Tim Adams. Is there any other members who have joined us that I've missed?
Okay, I think you got it all. Thank you, Kate. First, we'll start off with the minutes from our September meeting, which you guys should have all. You should all have it from the packet. If there are no adjustments to the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
Commissioner Robertson, motion to approve the minutes.
I do have a second.
Commissioner Hantz seconds.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All right, the minutes move. We've accepted the minutes. All right, and for the agenda today, we have the Maryland Transportation Authority update to the general approval memorandum of understanding. And so I don't know who's going to walk us through this MOU. I'll turn over to the staff. I think Kate Durant. Kate's going to walk us through. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Chair Conway. Good morning. I'm going to start sharing my screen, so let's all hope this works. I've had that kind of a morning. Okay. So as Chair Conway mentioned, I am presenting the Maryland Transportation Authority MOU for general approval update. Sorry, too many. I've lost my mouse. There we go. Before I get going on that, I want to first let everyone know a little bit about some of the other memoranda of understanding that we have with other state agencies. This is a slide showing, I think, almost all of the state agencies that we currently have MOUs with. So we do this quite often as a way to streamline our project review for state agencies. And in essence, you know, if we see a lot of the same types of projects, it does keep some of them from having to come to the full commission on a regular basis, which can make everybody's life a little bit easier. But just to let you know that this is something that we do on a regular basis, and we have been doing MOUs for decades at this point. They've been really helpful. So in that vein, I'll talk a little bit about the actual MOU update for MDTA. The Critical Area Commission staff and MDTA have been working on updating this general MOU for the last several months. The existing MOU was signed in 2015. COMAR 270203 gives the Commission the authority to enter into a general approval with state agencies, and we've been implementing that through MOUs. The existing MOU between MDTA and the Commission currently fulfills the requirements, so it addresses the process for project approval, eligible projects, and the responsibilities of both parties. The existing exhibit that is attached to the MOU also details specific projects that can be reviewed, and then thresholds for impacts as well as mitigation requirements. And those are requirements that are laid out as part of COMAR 270203. So once again, existing MOU is meeting those requirements. However, it hasn't been updated in 8 years, and we've noticed over time that things have changed a little bit. So we want to address that and make it better for everyone. So the goals of the MOU update were to streamline the existing process for the Critical Area Commission review of the MDTA projects. We wanted to update the existing exhibit to include additional projects that we'd started to see and procedures for including or adding new projects as the MOU and the exhibit are implemented. We also wanted to update the thresholds for qualifying projects so that it would match those in the State Highway Administration and Maryland Transportation Authority exhibits to the Maryland Department of Transportation MOU. They have a slightly different process, but it's pretty much the same. We also wanted to make sure that the beginning of the MOU, where we lay out really the groundwork, had all of the important information that we didn't necessarily think about in 2015, like the term of the MOU and specific information on how changes could be made to the MOU. So under the update, within the mitigation section of the MOU, we wanted to create an ecosystem mitigation banking program. Currently, MDTA has a roadside banking program, which was established under the existing MOU, but MDTA would like to expand that roadside banking program to an ecosystem mitigation banking program. The roadside banking program right now is literally just like little sections, for the most part, along right-of-way. An ecosystem mitigation banking program would allow MDTA to look at larger parcels of land, which would provide more uplift for everyone. And the mitigation section, we also added information to allow MDTA to pursue innovative mitigation opportunities that provide water quality and habitat benefits as another option for them to meet their mitigation requirements. We also updated the climate resiliency information in order to address the climate resiliency requirements that are listed in COMAR 270205. So MDTA acknowledges that state agencies are required to consult with the Commission to assess climate resilient practices that address coastal hazards, extreme weather events, sea level rise, and other impacts. And through this MOU, we have a commitment from MDTA's Office of Engineering and Construction to review each project that addresses climate resiliency and incorporate coast-smart siting and design guidelines to the maximum extent practicable. They actually have their own sort of checklist and review process in place that they are using for all of their projects. And at this point, it seems that it is in line with what the Commission would require under COMAR 270205. We also updated, we talked about future updates to the MOU and its exhibit. So now with this current version that is before you, changes to the MOU will require the consent of both parties as well as approval by the full Commission. However, Exhibit A, which is attached to the MOU, and that is where the specific projects are listed, that can be amended with written approval of the points of contact for each party to the MOU. And then the Commission will be notified of any amendments or modifications to the exhibit at the next meeting of the full Commission. And this is the process that we've instated for all of our MOUs at this point, so that the main body of the legal document of the MOU requires approval by the full Commission. But then Exhibit A, if we decide that there's a new project type that we keep seeing, maybe we need to add it to the list so that it makes it easier. excuse me. Under the Exhibit A updates, we wanted to update the structure of the exhibit to limit appendices. The existing exhibit has, I think, 3 or 4 attachments / appendices, and we just wanted to make it a little bit more cohesive and have everything all in the same place. We also added a new category of projects called special projects, but some of the projects that are on the current list of approved projects are also on the special projects list. So there was a little bit of reorganization as well. We did add a few project types to the list of activities that may be approved under the MOU exhibit. And if you look at page 3 and 4 of your staff report, you'll notice that the types of projects that are in bold, those are new types of projects that were added. And then we didn't make any changes to the current mitigation ratios. So that all stayed the same. So we'll be getting the same mitigation as always. The new project types for category 1 were access roads and sidewalks and ADA ramps. And then under category 2, we updated some of the information under the thresholds. So climate resilient practices will be incorporated where feasible, and then forest and developed woodland clearing is limited to 20,000 square feet for linear projects and 5,000 square feet for non-linear projects, which is an increase from where it currently is, but is in line with the MOU that we have with SHA. And then shore erosion control projects are now limited to 500 linear feet as opposed to 200 linear feet, which is also in line with our MOU with SHA as well as Department of Natural Resources. So with that, staff recommends that the MDTA Memorandum of Understanding and Exhibit A are approved as proposed. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. I see Commissioner Hance, and then I see Commissioner Roberson.
Oh, Commissioner Roberson can go first. She's got her hand raised.
And folks, please use the raise hand function. That way I can easily keep track since I can't see everyone. And Kate, do you mind taking down the slides?
Sure.
Thank you.
I was hoping that you could expand a little bit on the, you mentioned that innovative mitigation was added. Can you just talk a little bit about what you're thinking or project types that this would cover?
So when we look at the language, it basically says that it would be innovative mitigation other than direct replanting. So it could be something that's a little bit more expansive, or in terms of, I'm trying to think, you know, it might be a situation where we're creating, like, I'm trying to think, an area of uplift so that it might not be all entirely planting new plants, but it might be a combination of removing invasive species, planting trees, as well as planting pollinator habitat, or installing different types of more natural stormwater management in order to meet their goals for mitigation.
But it would be like an on the ground project. Like you wouldn't count like education or outreach or anything along those lines. It would be something that is a project that you're.
Yeah, it would be an on the ground project. There may be an education component to it, especially if it is like a larger site. They might want to put up signs, but it would still have plantings, and it just might not necessarily always be tree for tree.
Kate, just to add to your part, I just want to add, I think it's also to sort of keep in mind different coastal resiliency projects that may be coming down the road, like wetland migration areas, and how it might just not be the standard plantings, as Kate said, but more about looking at ways to do wetland migration and transitioning areas and trying to keep that open as an option, as opposed to just putting in plantings that may not necessarily survive if there's, you know, saltwater tolerances in there. So it's really to create that kind of innovative thing too.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And then just one other note, I'm going to get you all the new or the newer MDE logo, because I think the logo
Sorry.
a decade ago. So
Commissioner Hans and then Commissioner Adams.
Great. I'm glad you asked that question first, because that was on my mind as well. A follow-up question, though, is in terms of stormwater management. I noticed that it wasn't on the staff part of the memo, but then in the actual MOU itself, it refers to not having any limits for the clearing of woody vegetation. And so I'm presuming that that must be standard in other ones, being that it wasn't noted as something that was different. But that portion seems a little incongruous to me. If we're talking about in the buffer that there could be unlimited clearing of woody vegetation, I mean, most of our other projects that we've seen before this subcommittee, refer to wanting living shorelines. So can you explain to me why there wouldn't be any limit? I mean, living shoreline and maintaining, preserving existing vegetation is definitely considered a stormwater management best practice. So I feel like, I would hope that this commission would encourage that where practicable in our MOUs with agencies.
Yes. So under stormwater management, that was part of the original MOU. I don't know that we've ever actually seen them clear that much. And again, we also usually try to, especially now with coastal resiliency, not have stormwater management practices in the buffer, because as we continue having sea level rise impacts and other coastal impacts, it's not always the best option. I think that it was written that way because there are times that, depending on what the project type is and what MDTA needs to meet or needs to do in order to meet MDE's stormwater management requirements, it may require clearing to install a stormwater management project. But a lot of those projects now include additional plantings back. So we're not necessarily losing everything.
Just to add to Kate's part, this came out, once again, I think this is an MDTA's, it's an SHA's, I think it might be an MTA's. It was more about, it's not about new stormwater practices, but existing. And the understanding is with a lot of these agencies over the past several years, they haven't been able to maintain them and keep them so that they're functional. And so a lot of times, a lot of this vegetation has grown in these practices that weren't supposed to be there in the first place. And so they met with our commission, our subcommittees over the years, talk about being able to get rid of vegetation that was never supposed to be in those stormwater ponds, for example, in the first place, and keep those out. So it's for maintenance. Anything that's new, or if they were to expand the footprint, that's when it kicks in the mitigation. So they couldn't clear trees if it wasn't part of the existing pond and not mitigate. But it's more for these practices that were in there for 10, 20 years that have just overgrown because they just didn't have the staff to keep it functional, as Kate said, for MDE stormwater practices. So that's where it came from. That's why it's in there.
Thanks so much for that clarification, and I appreciate that the intent is not to encourage clearing of trees. I guess then in that section, though, there, I don't know, I still I still think that having the words no clearing limit for woody vegetation, including in the buffer, it just seems inappropriate given what you've just explained, that there has to be either something that establishes some type of limit, because I can't think of like it doesn't quite work out.
I know that Amanda is on the call, Amanda Atwell, who's representing or does consulting.
Yes, Amanda Atwell and Julie McCarthy are on.
We're wondering if there's any limit that could be workable for them in the MOU. And just as clarification, this isn't a Cat 2, so it would require staff level review. So it's not as if they could just go and clear without any sort of review by the commission. It still requires staff review, but I don't know if Amanda or Julie might have an idea if there could be a limit.
Yeah, so this is Amanda Atwell. My understanding is when Kate and I were updating this aspect of the MOU, it's as Nick said, it's specifically for maintenance of existing facilities. So, you know, if there's any type of trees on the banks of stormwater facilities or things like that located in the critical area, it's the opportunity to clear that vegetation within the specific constraints of the stormwater as built. So, I mean, that's how it reads to me. We could relook at that statement, but it's within, you know, the previously approved stormwater facility, and kind of you know, maintenance clearing for things that, you know, things like tree of heaven and other invasive species, or just, you know, aggressive early successional plants.
So to keep us moving along, I know we got about 5 minutes before we bump up with the next hearing. Commissioner Hance, would you like to make a recommended change now, and maybe we consider it as an amendment, or do that in the following full meeting? I guess I'd also take that to staff if we want to talk about some language that makes sense.
Yeah, I would be satisfied with if I could make a recommendation to strike that line only. That way everything else has some sort of you know, barrier threshold, and it would have to be reviewed by staff anyway, but this way there would be no debate as to what level of vegetation counted as needing review.
Is there a way, I want to figure out a threshold that doesn't create undue additional bureaucracy for regular maintenance. If we kept within those guidelines, I'm trying to figure out if there is a cleaner way to put that as opposed to taking it out completely, because we might find ourselves creating a ton of extra work for the staff.
Chair Conway, this is under category 2 of the exhibit, and under category 2, number 5 of the thresholds is that forest and developed woodland clearing may not exceed 20,000 square feet for linear projects. So we have that limit. The stormwater management projects, so this is for maintenance. It would be for maintenance that would require over 20,000 square feet of cutting, which I'm assuming that's why we put the no clearing limit, in case there was, and again, 20,000 square feet is almost half an acre. So yeah, that's a relatively large maintenance, stormwater maintenance, or stormwater management project to begin with. I will leave it up to.
Yeah, Kate, Nick is looking at the MOU, and we have one suggestion, which would be adding into, do you want to specify this?
Yeah, so I think on number 5, as Kate's talking about, which is on page 14. So that limit of 20,000 square feet is typically for linear projects, and I think a lot of these stormwater practices are probably non-linear. So I'm wondering if we added forest and developed woodland clearing may not exceed 20,000 square feet for linear projects and stormwater management practices. So it creates a 20,000 square foot threshold for stormwater management practices. And then, as Commissioner Hand says, delete that one line that says no clearing limits in the actual text for the stormwater practices.
And then this still would be limited to existing stormwater, like within the existing footprint, right? So we're still
Correct.
just talking about clearing of vegetation that's within an already existing stormwater management practice in that footprint, so we get that stormwater management practice back to full functionality.
Yeah.
And it's still at a staff level review, so we're looking and we're ensuring it's meeting that criteria. Does that balance out your concerns, Commissioner Hance?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so we can make that change to the text and prepare a condition for the, so I guess there would be a motion, right?
Yes. Commissioner Hance, would you like to make that a motion that we strike
Sure.
that?
I moved that we strike the language as ascribed by staff and include stormwater management projects in the section on, you said page 14 as described.
The 20,000 square foot clearing limit.
20,000 square foot clearing limit.
Great.
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All right, the motion passes. We have that amendment added to the MOU. Any questions before we consider? I know Commissioner Adams had his hand up. Commissioner Adams, if you still have your question, can make it quick. We'll try and slide it in there. If not, I think we'll move forward. All right, I think we're going to move forward. Just a minute over. I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOU as amended.
Commissioner Hance moves to approve.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hance and a second.
Commissioner Grant seconds.
Second from Commissioner Grant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, the MOU will move forward as amended. Thank you. And I guess staff will have the neat language for explanation at the full meeting.
Yes, we will.
Thank you, guys. I think we are all done with our agenda for the day, and we will close up. Thank you.
Great. If I could just remind everyone, the training is from 10 to noon, and we hope you can join us. And there's that separate link in your email. So thank you all.
Thank you.